The rain hammered the terracotta roof like 1,000 tiny accusations, each drop echoing the frantic beat of my heart as I stood frozen in the doorway of the old finca, watching Isla's silhouette against the flickering candlelight. "You can't just leave like this, Ivy," she whispered, her voice cracking like the thunder outside, the words hanging heavy between us as if they'd been waiting years to escape. In that split second, as her hand brushed mine, electric, forbidden, I knew the fragile world we'd built in secret was shattering, and there was no turning back. I never meant for it to happen this way. Not in a dusty corner of Catalonia, where the air smelled of salt and wild rosemary, far from the polished chaos of my life back in Seattle. I'd come to Spain on a whim, a post-college escape funded by a scattershot inheritance from an aunt I barely knew. My best friend Theo had been living here for 2 years, chasing some dream of becoming a translator in Barcelona. He was the kind of guy who collected stray cats and quoted Hemingway at dinner parties, the sort who made you feel like adventure was just a train ticket away. When he invited me to crash at his family's rented villa in a sleepy coastal town called Cadax, I said yes without a second thought. It was supposed to be a reset. Sun-soaked days hiking the cliffs, nights filled with cheap sangria and stories that didn't involve my dead-end barista job, or the gnawing loneliness that had settled in my chest like fog. Theo's family wasn't exactly family, in the traditional sense. His mom was a nomadic artist from Portland, his dad a retired software engineer who traded Silicon Valley for olive groves. But the real wild card was Isla, Theo's older sister. She was 7 years my senior, a force of nature who dropped out of law school in Madrid to run a small bookstore in town, specializing in forgotten feminist texts and surrealist poetry. Theo talked about her like she was both saint and storm, brilliant, unreliable, the one who'd taught him to sail but also the one who'd once driven their family car into a ditch during a heated argument about politics. I pictured her as some harried intellectual, buried in stacks of books, not the woman who opened the door that first evening, her dark hair loose and damp from the sea mist, wearing a faded band tee from a 90s indie concert and cut-off shorts that showed the faint scars from childhood adventures on these very shores. "Ivy, right? Theo's American shadow," she said, her accent a melodic blend of Californian drawl and Castilian lilt, extending a hand that was callous from shelving tomes and tending rooftop herbs. Her eyes, hazel flecked with gold, locked onto mine with an intensity that made my stomach flip. I was 22, all awkward limbs and freckles, my auburn hair perpetually in a messy bun, dressed in thrift store jeans and a hoodie that screamed lost tourist. She was 28, tall and lithe, with the kind of effortless grace that comes from knowing exactly who you are, even if the world hasn't caught up yet. The villa was a labyrinth of whitewashed walls and arched doorways, perched on a hill overlooking the bay where Salvador Dali once painted his melting clocks. That first dinner was chaos in the best way. Theo burning paella on the outdoor grill, his mom sketching caricatures of us all, his dad regaling stories of debugging code under deadline. Isla sat across from me, her laughter low and infectious, passing me slices of manchego cheese with a wink that lingered just a beat too long. "Theo says you're a writer," she said, leaning forward, elbows on the scarred wooden table. "What kind? The kind that saves the world, or the kind that breaks hearts?" I blushed, fumbling my fork. "Neither really. Just scraps. Journal entries about feeling like I'm always chasing something I can't name." It was the truth, rawer than I intended. Back home, I'd filled notebooks with half-formed poems about unrequited crushes, mostly on women who saw me as the cute sidekick, never the lead. I'd kissed a girl once, in a college dorm under the influence of too much tequila, but it fizzled into friendship. Here under the stars with the sea whispering secrets below, her gaze felt like permission to dream bigger. By the end of the week I'd fallen into an easy rhythm. Mornings were for exploring the cobbled streets of Cadax, where fishing boats bobbed like forgotten toys and bougainvillea spilled over iron balconies. Theo and I would hike to the lighthouse, debating everything from climate anxiety to the ethics of veganism in a country that worshipped Jaman. Afternoons I'd wander into Isla's bookstore, El Rincon Alvedado, a cramped haven tucked between a bakery and a hardware store. The air inside was thick with the scent of aged paper and chamomile tea. She'd greet me with a steaming mug and a dog-eared volume, Virginia Woolf one day, Audre Lorde the next, perched on a stool behind the counter, her legs crossed, bare feet tapping to some invisible rhythm. "Your trouble, Ivy," she teased one afternoon. As I lingered over a collection of Sappho's fragments, Theo warned me you steal hearts without trying. Her smile was playful, but there was a shadow in it, a flicker of something deeper. I laughed it off, but that night, as I lay on the lumpy guest bed listening to the waves, I couldn't shake the warmth of her presence. It was innocent at first. Shared glances over breakfast, her brushing past me in the narrow kitchen, the accidental touch of fingers over a shared cigarette on the terrace. Theo noticed nothing, too wrapped up in his latest fling with a local sculptor. But I felt it building like the humid pressure before a storm. A quiet ache that made my skin hum. It was the end of my second week when the invitation came. Theo had to dash to Barcelona for a freelance gig, translating subtitles for some indie film festival. "Stay here," he said, tossing me his keys. "Don't let Mom turn the place into a commune." I planned to hole up with a book, maybe sketch the harbor at sunset. But as he hugged me goodbye, Isla appeared in the doorway, arms crossed, a mischievous glint in her eye. "Or," she said, voice casual as sea glass, "you could stay over properly. Theo's room is a disaster, but the guest house has a killer view. We could talk about those scraps of yours." My heart stuttered. "Stay over? Like the night?" I echoed idiotically. She nodded, stepping closer, the faint scent of lavender from her hair wrapping around me. "All of them if you want. Spain's better shared." Theo rolled his eyes. "Don't corrupt my friend Isla," and was gone in a cloud of exhaust from the rattling Fiat. I turned to her, pulse racing, and she just smiled, that knowing curve of her lips. "Come on, writer girl. Let's make some trouble." That night we cooked together. Simple tortilla española, eggs sizzling in olive oil while we traded stories over glasses of Rioja. She told me about dropping out of law school, the suffocating weight of expectations from their absent father, how the bookstore was her rebellion. "I wanted to build something real," she said, flipping the pan with a flourish. "Not chase verdicts in a stuffy courtroom." I opened up about Seattle, the endless rain mirroring my moods, the fear that I'd peaked at 18, the way I'd always felt like an outsider in my own skin. Too queer for straight friends, too straight-laced for the scene. "Lesbian adjacent," I joked, but her eyes softened, and she reached across the counter, her thumb tracing the back of my hand. "Adjacent is just the beginning, Ivy. Sometimes you have to leap." We ate on the terrace as the sun dipped into the sea, painting the sky in bruised purples and golds. Conversation flowed like the wine, philosophy, art, the ache of loving women in a world that still whispered judgments. She spoke of her ex, a painter from Valencia who'd left her for a man, shattering her trust in forever. "It taught me to guard my heart," she admitted, voice barely above the waves. "But damn if it doesn't get lonely." I wanted to say I understood, that I'd built walls too, but instead I just listened, her vulnerability pulling me closer. As midnight crept in, the air cooled, and she suggested we move to the guest house, a tiny stone cottage at the edge of the property, with a hammock strung between olive trees and windows framing the moonlit bay. We lit a fire in the small hearth, its crackle the only sound as we settled on the rug with blankets draped over our knees. "Read to me," she said, handing me the wolf I'd been carrying. Her head rested on my shoulder, her breath warm against my neck. I stumbled through the pages, voice trembling, until the words blurred and I set the book aside. In the firelight, her face was close, too close, and when she tilted her chin, our lips met in a kiss that tasted of salt and possibility. It was soft at first, tentative like testing the tide. Then deeper, her hand cupping my cheek, my fingers tangling in her hair. Time dissolved. There was only the heat of her skin, the way she sighed my name like a prayer. We didn't cross lines, nothing rushed or desperate, just held each other, whispering confessions into the dark. "I've wanted this since you arrived," she murmured, tracing patterns on my arm. "You see me, Ivy. Not the sister, not the bookseller. Me." I fell asleep in her arms, the world outside fading to a distant hum, believing for the first time in second chances. The next morning dawned crisp and golden, sunlight slanting through the shutters like fingers beckoning us awake. I stirred to find Isla already up, brewing coffee on the cottage's hot plate, her hair a wild halo as she hummed an old Joan Baez tune. "Buenos dias, mi escritora," she said, handing me a mug with a kiss to my temple. It felt surreal, domestic, intimate, like slipping into a life that had been waiting just beyond the horizon. We spent the day wandering the cliffs, hand in hand when the paths emptied, stealing kisses behind boulders where the sea spray kissed our skin. She pointed out hidden coves where she'd swum naked as a teen, laughing about the time Theo had caught her and never let her live it down. "He's a good brother," she said, squeezing my fingers, "but clueless about the heart stuff." By evening, we'd returned to the villa, where Theo's texts buzzed in from Barcelona. "Festival's a circus. Miss the paella burns." I replied with emojis, omitting the part where his sister had become my entire universe. Dinner was takeout from a seaside tapas bar, patatas bravas and gambas al ajillo, eaten cross-legged on the living room floor amid scattered sketchpads. Isla's mom, Elena, joined us, her silver-streaked hair tied in a scarf, eyes twinkling as she regaled tales of 70s communes in Oregon. "Love's the real revolution," she declared, winking at us. Did she sense it? The electricity humming between Isla and me. The way our knees brushed under the table? I hoped so. Her approval felt like absolution. That week blurred into a montage of stolen moments. Mornings in the bookstore where I'd help unpack crates of new arrivals, our fingers lingering over yellowed spines. Afternoons sailing in Theo's leaky dinghy, Isla at the tiller, wind whipping her laughter as we tacked against the breeze. Evenings on the terrace, guitars strummed lazily, songs about lost lovers and open roads. It was romance distilled, raw, unfiltered, the kind that makes you believe in fate. But beneath the glow, cracks began to show. Isla's phone would chime at odd hours, her face tightening as she silenced it. "Work stuff," she'd mutter, but her eyes darted away. Once I glimpsed a name on the screen, Lucia. An ex? A friend? I pushed the jealousy down, reminding myself this was new, fragile. Theo returned on a Friday, tanned and buzzing with festival stories, oblivious to the shift. "You two look cozy," he said, clapping me on the back. "Isla's been playing tour guide?" She shot me a conspiratorial glance and I nodded, throat tight. That night, the three of us hiked to a hidden beach for a bonfire, bottles of Estrella clinking in the dusk. Theo roasted marshmallows with theatrical flair, recounting his latest heartbreak, a sculptor who'd ghosted him mid-project. "Women are enigmas," he sighed, poking the flames. Isla and I exchanged a look, her foot nudging mine in the sand. "Or maybe we're just mirrors," she said softly, "reflecting what you put in." As the fire died to embers, Theo wandered off to chase bioluminescent waves, leaving us in the flickering light. Isla pulled me close, her lips finding mine with a hunger that stole my breath. "I could get used to this," she whispered, forehead against mine. "To you." My heart swelled but doubt flickered. How long could we hide? Theo was my anchor here. Losing his trust would unravel everything. Yet in her arms, with the sea sighing approval, I silenced the fears. We were building something real, brick by whispered brick. The idol shattered 2 weeks later, on a sweltering August afternoon. I'd been in town picking up fresh figs from the market when I turned a corner and froze. There, outside a cafe on the plaza, was Isla, laughing, her hand on the arm of a woman with sleek bobbed hair and designer sunglasses. "Lucia." They leaned in, voices low, intimate. My stomach plummeted. Was this the work stuff? I ducked behind a fountain, pulse thundering, watching as Lucia pulled Isla into a hug that lingered too long, her lips brushing Isla's cheek. Jealousy clawed at me, hot and irrational. I fled back to the villa, slamming the guest house door, tears burning my eyes. Betrayal? Or paranoia? When Isla arrived later, arms laden with groceries, her smile faltered at my silence. "What's wrong?" she asked, setting the bags down, reaching for me. I pulled away, words tumbling out like accusations. "Saw you with her. Lucia. Looked pretty cozy for work." Her face paled, then flushed. "Ivy, it's not God, it's nothing like that." But the defensiveness in her voice cracked my resolve. We argued in the cottage, voices rising over the hum of cicadas. She admitted Lucia was an old flame, back in town for a gallery opening. We talked, cleared the air. That's all. But the hug, the laugh, details gnawed at me. "Do you still love her?" I demanded, voice breaking. She hesitated, a fatal beat, and I saw the truth. Remnants lingered, ghosts she hadn't fully exorcised. "I care about you, Ivy. More than I should this soon." Her words were a bomb and a blade. We made up in tears, bodies entwined on the rug, promises exchanged like fragile shells. But the seed of doubt had taken root. Days later, Theo cornered me during a walk. "Something's off with Isla," he said, kicking pebbles along the path. "She's distant. And you're glowing but sad. Spill." I deflected, but guilt twisted like thorns. He deserved honesty. We were family in a way. That night, alone with my journal, I wrote feverishly. What if this is just a summer mirage? What if I break us all? The conflict escalated at Elena's birthday party. A bohemian affair in the villa's courtyard. Lanterns strung like fireflies, paella steaming on long tables, guests from town mingling with expat artists. Theo manned the bar, mixing gin and tonics with flair. Isla and I danced on the periphery, her hands on my waist to the strum of a flamenco guitar, the world narrowing to her breath on my neck. But Lucia arrived uninvited, a vision in silk, air-kissing cheeks and complimenting Elena's latest mural. Her eyes found Isla's across the crowd, a silent pull. I excused myself to the kitchen, splashing water on my face when Theo followed. "Ivy, talk to me. You're white as a ghost." The dam broke. Haltingly, I confessed, the kiss, the connection, the fear of ruining everything. His face cycled through shock, hurt, then softening. "My sister's a mess, but she doesn't do casual. If she's in, she's all in." He hugged me, brotherly but warned. "Just don't let it consume you. Love's not a storm to weather alone." Emboldened, I returned to the party, only to find Isla and Lucia in hushed conversation by the fountain, heads bent close. My vision tunneled. I stormed over, voice sharp. "Am I interrupting?" Lucia raised an eyebrow, amused. Isla looked stricken. "Ivy, wait." The courtyard hushed as words flew. Accusations of secrecy, pleas for trust. Guests averted eyes. Elena watching with quiet sorrow. Lucia slipped away, but the damage was done. Theo pulled me aside, Isla chasing after. "This isn't how I wanted it," she said, tears streaming. "Lucia's leaving tomorrow. For good. I swear." But the betrayal stung, a chasm opening. We retreated to the guest house, the party fading to murmurs outside. In the dim light, she held me as I sobbed, her own grief mirroring mine. "I pushed her away tonight for you," she whispered. "Because you're the one who sees my soul." Healing was tentative. Walks where we aired every fear. Letters written and burned in the hearth to release old wounds. Theo became our unlikely ally, covering for late nights, offering awkward but earnest advice. "You're both idiots," he'd say, "but the good kind." Romance rekindled in quiet ways. Picnics on secluded beaches, her reading my poems aloud with exaggerated drama, my sketches of her sleeping form taped to the bookstore walls. Yet the undercurrent of drama simmered, whispers in town about the American girl in the bookseller, Elena's gentle probing over tea. Spain, with its ancient stones and passionate heart, amplified every emotion, turning whispers to roars. As September loomed, my visa clock ticked louder. Back in Seattle, a job offer waited. A junior editor at a small press, stability calling like a siren. But leaving Isla felt like amputating a limb. We planned a farewell hike to the Cap de Creus, the jagged peninsula where land met sea in defiant beauty. Theo bowed out, sensing our need for space. The trail wound through time-scented maquis, the air sharp with autumn's edge. At the summit, overlooking cliffs plummeting to froth, Isla stopped, turning to me with eyes fierce as the wind. "Don't go," she said simply. "Or take me with you." The words hung there, raw and reckless, as the sea wind whipped our hair into frenzy. I searched her face, those hazel eyes stormy with vulnerability, and saw the leap she'd taken, the walls she'd dismantled. "Isla, I can't ask you to uproot everything." My voice cracked, the visa papers burning a hole in my backpack. She stepped closer, hands framing my face, thumbs brushing away tears I hadn't realized were falling. "You're not asking. I'm offering. This." She gestured to the vast, indifferent landscape. "It's beautiful, but it's not home. You are." We descended in a haze of what-ifs, her hand firm in mine, the path blurring underfoot. Back at the villa, reality crashed in. Theo paced the kitchen when we told him, espresso cup forgotten in his agitation. "Seattle? That's like trading saffron for Starbucks." But beneath the banter, pride gleamed. He hugged Isla fiercely, then me whispering, "Take care of each other, yeah?" and send paella recipes. Elena was quieter, her artist's eye reading the subtext. Over herbal tea that night she pulled me aside. Love isn't possession, Ivy. It's freedom. If it clips your wings, it's not love. Her words echoed as I packed, folding sundresses stained with sea salt, each crease a memory. Lucia's departure marked a turning point. The morning after the party fallout, she'd left a note at the bookstore. Wishing you clarity always. L. Isla burned it without ceremony. Ashes scattering on the windswept roof. No more ghosts, she declared, pulling me into a kiss that sealed the vow. Trust rebuilt slowly like mending a favorite book, page by careful page. We volunteered at a local women's shelter, sorting donations and leading reading circles on empowerment tales. There, amid stories of resilience, I saw Isla's depth. Her gentle encouragement to a young mother fleeing abuse. The way she'd slip extra books into bags with notes of solidarity. It humanized her, stripped the pedestal, made our bond feel earned. Yet conflict brewed anew, insidious as fog rolling off the bay. Theo's revelation came casually, over churros one drizzly morning. Isla's been cagey about money. Bookstores dipping red, tourists dried up post-summer. I confronted her that afternoon, amid stacks of unsold volumes. Why hide it? We could brainstorm, cut costs. She waved me off, jaw tight. It's my mess, Ivy. Always has been. Pride, that old foe. Arguments flared. Me pushing for partnership, her retreating into solitude. One night, it boiled over in the guest house. You treat me like a savior, not an equal. I shouted, slamming a drawer. And you act like I'm a child who needs fixing, she retorted, voice venom-laced. We slept apart, the silence deafening. Betrayal struck deepest from an unexpected quarter. Elena, in a bid to help, had contacted an old friend, a gallery owner in Barcelona, for a loan. Word spread like wildfire in the tight-knit expat circle. Isla's desperation. Whispers of failure. The town buzzed. Customers trickled to a halt, eyes averted in the aisles. Isla withdrew, manning the counter like a sentinel, her smiles brittle. I found her one evening, curled on the bookstore floor amid fairy lights and forgotten tomes, sobbing quietly. I built this from nothing, she choked out, clutching a ledger stained with red ink. And now it's crumbling because I dared to dream. I held her, rocking gently, my own tears soaking her shirt. We're in this together. Let me in. The climax unfolded on a tempestuous November eve, the kind where storms lashed the coast like divine wrath. I'd taken a side gig at a local cafe to chip in, barista skills translating across oceans. Theo helped too, tutoring English to kids in exchange for shelf space. But Isla's isolation festered. She skipped our volunteer shifts, buried in applications for jobs in Madrid. Anything to salvage dignity. I discovered the emails on her laptop, left open in haste. Cover letters pleading for corporate drudgery, echoes of the life she'd fled. Heart sinking, I confronted her on the terrace. Rain sheeting down as thunder grumbled threats. You're running, I accused, voice rising over the gale. From the store, from us, back to that cage you escaped. She whirled, drenched and defiant, hair plastered like a siren's. And you're smothering me, Ivy. Your fixes, your optimism. It's American fairy dust. This is Spain. We bleed for our passions. Words escalated, barbs flying. My naivety, her stubbornness, the fear we'd both lose ourselves. In a surge of anguish, she hurled a potted herb off the railing, soil exploding on stones below, not at me but the chasm between us. I recoiled, the gesture a mirror to my deepest dread. Destruction born of love. Theo burst out then, umbrella forgotten, face etched with worry. Enough! You're tearing each other apart. He pulled us inside, sodden and shivering, brewing chamomile in the kitchen like a peace offering. Around the table, truths poured. Isla's terror of failure mirroring her father's abandonment. My Seattle scars fueling a savior complex. Theo mediated, his humor a lifeline. If you two don't figure this, I'll marry you myself to shut you up. Laughter broke the dam, tentative, then cathartic. Isla reached for my hand, sodden sleeve to sleeve. I'm scared, she admitted, voice small, of needing you too much. I squeezed back. Good. That's where the real story starts. Resolution came in layers, humanistic and hard won. The bookstore survived. Not through miracles but community. A crowdfunding plea penned jointly went viral in local circles. El Rincon Olvidado, where stories save us. Donations trickled, books bought in bulk by schools, poetry readings drawing crowds. Elena curated an exhibit of local art, sales funding repairs. Lucia even contributed anonymously, a gesture closing her chapter gracefully. Amid it, our love deepened, not in grand gestures but daily devotions. Morning coffees shared in bed, evenings debating Octavia Butler over vino tinto, hikes where silence spoke volumes. As winter softened into spring, the visa decision loomed. Seattle's offer expired, but a remote editing role emerged. Flexible, bridging worlds. Isla and I waited on the Cap de Crius again, this time under a sky clear as promise. Go if it calls, she said, no trace of fear. I'll visit. Or we meet halfway, in Paris or Portland. Freedom, Elena had said. We chose it. Me returning stateside for roots, her anchoring here, visits plotted like treasures. Theo threw a send-off barbecue, the courtyard alive with toasts. To messy, beautiful loves. Guests cheered, including wary townsfolk, now bookstore regulars. The night before my flight, we walked the moonlit beach, barefoot in the surf. Everything changed that stay over. I murmured, sand cool between toes. She stopped, pulling me into the wave's edge, salt spray mingling with kisses. And it keeps changing. That's the gift. No tidy bows, just two women scarred and soaring, choosing each other amid life's tempests. As dawn pinked the horizon, I knew. Home wasn't a place but this, her hand in mine, the sea's endless song. Boarding the plane in Barcelona felt like shedding a skin, exhilarating, raw. The Catalonia coast shrinking to a jagged memory below. Seattle greeted me with familiar drizzle. The Space Needle a steadfast sentinel amid evergreens. The apartment I'd sublet was cozy, cluttered with plants and second-hand novels, a far cry from whitewashed arches but brimming with potential. Work started Monday. Emails zipping between manuscripts on queer histories and climate fiction, colleagues who shared my caffeine-fueled cynicism. Yet evenings echoed hollow without Isla's voice on the line. Our calls a lifeline across time zones, her describing stormy sunsets, me recounting rainy hikes in the Cascades. Theo checked in weekly, his updates a bridge. Bookstores booming, poetry slam last night. Isla killed it with a piece about transatlantic hearts. Miss you, sis. He visited first, crashing on my couch for a tech conference, regaling tales of Barcelona's underbelly over foe in Capitol Hill. She's good, he assured, eyes twinkling. Pining but good. Don't ghost us Americans. Laughter eased the ache but doubt whispered. Was distance eroding us? Parcels arrived, packages of saffron and sea glass, notes in her looping script. For the days the rain feels too heavy. I reciprocated with mixtapes of Joni Mitchell and local zines, words scribbled in margins. You're my favorite unfinished chapter. Spring thawed into summer and she came. Barcelona layover. Then a red-eye to SeaTac. I waited at arrivals, heart hammering, a bouquet of wildflowers clutched like talismans. She emerged in a linen dress, hair loose, eyes scanning until they locked on mine. Then the world narrowed to her run, our collision in hugs and tears and kisses that tasted of airports and longing. Missed this, she breathed, fingers tracing my jaw. We drove to the sound, windows down, indie folk on the stereo, the water a glittering promise. Her 2 weeks were a whirlwind of reclamation. Mornings tangled in sheets, afternoons exploring Pike Place, her delight at flying fish, my pride in showing her the grit glamour of my city. We hiked Discovery Park, ferns unfurling like secrets, pausing at bluffs to share dreams. Her expanding the bookstore into workshops for young queer writers, me pitching a memoir on accidental exiles. Evenings at queer bars in Capitol Hill, hands linked under tables, dancing to synth-pop amid rainbow flags. No drama shadowed us, just presence, the quiet power of choosing joy. But humanity's messiness intruded gently. Elena joined midway, her visit a whirlwind of galleries and gardens, mother-daughter talks over lavender lattes. You've grounded her, Ivy, she confided one eve as Isla sketched nearby. And she's freed you. Theo Skyped in, his face pixelated but beaming. Don't screw this up, world needs more love like yours. A minor hiccup. Isla's restlessness in the rain, her confession of culture shock over takeout Thai. It's vibrant but I crave the sun's bite. We navigated it with walks in the mist, her head on my shoulder. We'll figure the rhythm. Like a duet, offbeats and all. Her departure loomed like a bruise, but we met it head-on. Airport goodbyes evolved. No sobs, just lingering holds, promises etched in skin. 6 months, she said, boarding pass in hand. Then we decide Spain, Seattle, or somewhere new. I nodded, throat tight, watching her silhouette fade. Back home, the apartment felt fuller. Infused with her scent on pillows, her laughter in my bones. Months blurred. Holidays solo but connected. Thanksgiving with Theo's video call. Her New Year's in Quebec streamed live. Fireworks bursting over the bay. My book took shape. Chapters on that summer storm. Submitted to agents with a bio noting forthcoming collaborations across oceans. Isla's updates thrilled. A grant for the bookstore. A reading series drawing crowds from Girona. Your letters inspired it, she wrote. Words as bridges. The turning point came in April. Cherry blossoms dusting Seattle like confetti. An email from a publisher. Interest in the memoir, contingent on a co-authored epilogue, with Isla. I called her at dawn, her time voice bubbling.